The king of Silvar, Inglis, is lying on his deathbed, surrounded by people who are in tears because their beloved king is dying. The king tells them not to be sad, as it is his time and fate to die. Suddenly, a bright light appears beside him and a beautiful woman who seems to be a goddess appears next to him. He calls her by her name, Divine Alastia. He is pleased he gets to see her before his last breath. She is also relieved that she gets to see him too. Alastia commends him for his achievement during his lifetime and praises him as the hero king who served his people selflessly, and she is glad that she chose him to be her divine knight. Inglis acknowledges that he couldn't have achieved all of that without her blessing. He slayed many evil gods and monsters during his reign, and he became known as the hero king. Alastia wants to repay Inglis for all his extraordinary efforts and good deeds. She reveals to him that she will grant him any wish as long as it is within her power. In his present life, Inglis dedicated everything to serving his kingdom and his people. He wishes to be reborn as a swordsman to see how far he can go by dedicating his next life to honing his martial skill and becoming a great hero. Alastia grants him his wish. She cradles him in a field of flowers and looks forward to their reunion in the distant future. Inglis opens his eyes to see a man and a woman looking back at him happily. They are his parents. The woman's name is Serena and the man's name is Luke. He has been reincarnated with the same name from his previous life, but something is different. Looking at the mirror, he soon discovers that he has been reborn as a girl, which made him scream. Inglis wakes from her cradle. She looks at the shield and swords placed on the wall and expresses her frustration as she is unable to use the sword as a baby. She realizes that her divine blessing from the goddess Alastia is still intact. As she floats in the air, she explains ether as the origin of all creation in this world, and everything that exists is made up of ether. The ability to control it means exerting your will over the world, which makes it a divine power. As she continues to float in the air, she notices that no one in this new world has been able to use ether. But soon, her thoughts are interrupted by someone alerting the people of the presence of magicite beasts in the city. Inglis's mother, Serena, opens the door and is shocked to see Inglis floating. Inglis immediately falls into her cradle and starts crying to distract her mother from thinking about what she had just seen. Serena carries her baby and runs to safety as Serena is running towards the castle. Inglis is happy and thinks about the magicite beast, hoping that the magicite beast is a vicious beast that will make a satisfying enemy. Upon arrival at the entrance of the castle, we see another woman whose name is Irina, Serena's older sister, who takes them inside. We then meet Raphael, Irina's son, who is 8, and is looking after his baby sister, Rafinha, as his mom and his aunt enters the room. He immediately expresses his happiness to see both his mom and her sister safe. Irina hopes that they will be safe in the room while the knights fights off the magicite beasts. Serena looks out of the window with Inglis in her arms, and Inglis is able to see what the magicite beasts looks like. The magicite beasts are dragon-like creatures, with different color of horns. She is also curious to know if they are made up with condensed mana. She came to the conclusion that the world has become more dangerous, which makes her excited at the thought of fighting such powerful beasts. She cries, frustrated that she can't test her skills yet, and starts wiggling in her mother's arms. But Serena thinks that Inglis is scared because it's her first time seeing a magicite beast. Raphael expresses his frustration because all he can do is sit back while the other knights fight. Even though he has already received his rune, he wants to fight the magicite beast alongside the other knights. But his mom assures him that he will fight when the time is right, and that his rune represents the hope of the people, which makes him special. Inglis explains that the rune is a mark of all knights. It is needed to wield artifacts that allows combat against magicite beasts. Serena also have a rune engraved on her right hand and is different from Raphael's. Suddenly, a magicite beast bashes into the room, knocking Irina with Rafinha in her arms to the ground. Raphael tries to fight the monster, but Serena stops him and entrusts him with the babies and orders him to escape with them. She prepares to fight the beast. She launches at the beast, but her attack does nothing to affect the beast. But Raphael does not want to run from a fight, so he built a wall of chairs around the babies and rushes to fight alongside his aunt. Inglis praises his conviction and eagerness to fight, which will sharpen him into becoming a great hero in the future. Raphael starts attacking the magicite beast, but his weapon isn't strong enough to do anything to the beast. The beast then unleashes just one attack with his tail, knocking both Serena and Raphael to the ground unconscious. As the beast approaches the unconscious two to finish them off, Inglis crawls towards the monster and confronts it. She starts charging up her ether. Inglise admires Raphael's bravery and won't let him die in a place like this. She then launches a big ray of concentrated ether at the beast, thereby disintegrating the magicite beast. The blast causes a huge hole in the wall. She rejoices at what she had done. However, Raphael is still conscious and witnessed all that had happened. Thankfully, he passes out and Inglise is relieved, hoping that when Raphael wakes up he will think that what he saw was a dream. Inglise also falls unconscious because she is just a baby and used too much mana for such a small body. 5 years later, Inglise is all grown up. She admires her beauty in the mirror and knows that she will grow up to be a beautiful lady. But she gets interrupted by Irina and her mother, who points out that Inglise loves to admire herself in the mirror. Irina also praises Inglise for her well-mannered behavior as she is very mature for her age. Raffiana, who is called Ronnie for short, appears behind her mother and invites Inglise to practice at the field. On the training ground, where the knights are training, Ronnie struggles to raise a wooden sword but falls down because it is too heavy for her. Inglise runs to help her stand up. Raphael, who is now 13, is training on the field. He is the eldest son and heir of the local lord, the Duke Bilford. Everyone expects great things from him. With his exceptional martial skills, no one can defeat him except Inglise's dad, who is their captain. Inglise is excited and wishes to spar with him one day. Soon, a traveling merchant named Rambach arrives at the training ground with his group to spar with the knights. Rani explains to Inglise that the merchants often gets attacked by magicite beasts, so they spar with the knights sometimes in order to sharpen their skills and get stronger. Inglise is envious and calls them lucky because they get to frequently fight magicite beasts. This confuses Rani for a moment, but Inglise shrugs it off as nothing. Mr. Rambach introduces his son, Raul, who seems intimidated by Raphael. Raul politely greets everyone. However, as soon as he holds the sword, he surprises all of them when he beats 10 knights in a few minutes. Raul shows his cocky and arrogant attitude as he mocks the knights, calling them weak. He starts saying that the knights have grown rusty and weak because the city has not been attacked by magicite beasts in a long time. Inglise notices what Raul is doing to beat the knights. It seems Raul is using some kind of binding magic to restrict his opponent's movement when they make eye contact with him, giving him an opening to strike. Inglise is surprised that no one has noticed. She concludes that the people of this era have lost their sense and knowledge of magic. Raul beats up another knight and knocks his wooden sword from his hand, which goes flying towards Rani. But Inglise easily catches it before it lands on her. Raphael thanks Inglise for saving his younger sister in the nick of time. Raul continues to brag about his ability to beat the knight. His father mockingly tells him to not be disrespectful to the knights. Raphael steps forward to defend the honor of the knights and challenges Raul to a duel. Inglise advises Raphael not to make eye contact with Raul while he's fighting, as she feels there is something fishy about Raul's fighting technique. Raphael appreciates Inglise for the advice and takes it. The duel starts and Raphael avoids making eye contact with Raul, but instead, he looks at Raul's feet. Raphael launches a series of attacks on Raul, giving him the upper hand, and the knight starts cheering for him. However, Raul pretends to launch an attack and Raphael bashes into a wall, because he was looking down at Raul's feet and doesn't see the wall. This gives Raul the chance to win the duel by slashing Raphael's back with his wooden sword. He then commends Raphael's fighting skill but also mocks him, saying that he is not worthy of becoming the next leader to lead the Holy Knights in the future. Seeing this, Inglise has had enough, so she walks to Raul and politely asks him to give her some lesson by challenging him to a duel. But Raul turns her down, saying he doesn't want to fight a little girl, and tells her to go look for dolls to play with. This makes Inglise angry and she threatens to expose his magic if he doesn't accept the duel. Raul is left with no other option but to accept the challenge. Inglise's father, Luke, tries to talk her out of it because she is still a little girl, but she proudly tells him that she is his daughter and wants to uphold the dignity of the knights. She also blackmails him, saying that she will inform her mom about the vase he bought if he doesn't let her duel. Hearing this, Luke immediately allows her to fight. As the duel starts, Raul tries to use his binding magic trick on Inglise, but she dispels it with ether by hitting her chest 3 times. She could use ether while fighting, but that will be no fun for her, so she decides to fight without it. As soon as she takes a swordsmanship stance, Raul furiously attacks her, but she easily deflects all of his attacks with her eyes closed. Everyone is shocked at her mastery of the sword. Her father proudly calls her a child prodigy. She keeps on deflecting every one of Raul's attacks. He is angry and gets frustrated as he asks her what she really is. In this moment, Inglise attacks him and slashes his back with the wooden sword. The same way Raphael was beaten, Raul gives up, defeated by a little girl. Inglis thanks him for the fight. Everybody rejoices in amazement and congratulate her. Inglis is proud of herself and promises to do better and aim higher. After all, that was the reason why she is reborn. And that is how the episode ends.